Welcome to another episode of No Talking During the Movies. I am your host, Stephen Austin.
I am your co-host, Tank.
Tank is annoyed at the amount of trailers they play before a film, whereas I'm just happy that they played the In the Heights trailer twice. Based on a true story, by the way, I went and saw on May 4th, I went and saw Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, its 10-year anniversary.
You're back at the movies.
I went back to the movie theater. Thankfully, when I went there, I was like the one of 3 people in that theater, all very separated. They recommended that you wear the mask the entire time unless you're eating or drinking. I was pretty much sipping my soda the entire time, but I was still respectful and put on my mask if I needed to. But the experience was great, but I also don't think they've sold enough preview time, and they literally did play the In the Heights trailer twice. Not in a row, but it was enough for me to be like, there it is at the beginning, and then if they played it again, I was like, well, it's a good thing I like this trailer.
Well, and I don't want to retcon your intro, but actually, trailers.
You
are my
do love
part
it,
of them.
yeah.
It's my favorite part of the movie, especially when you go see a new movie, and then like they give you something that's coming up like way in the future. I mean, I love that. I miss that about the movies. Here's something that sucks so much balls is that we've been in this pandemic for the last 18 months or whatever, just stuck not being able to go to the movies. I got a baby due in the next 2 weeks, so my movie going days are pretty much behind me. And honestly, like I haven't seen anything in the theater, and the last thing I saw. So probably the last movie I'm going to see for the foreseeable future at the theaters is Onward.
Well, no, like, why don't we make it like almost like a work excuse? Like, oh, I'm sorry, gotta go see Top Gun for the podcast.
So you've met my wife, right? Because
hey,
my wife, much like Harry Connick Jr. on a hip hop station, does not play that shit.
I was gonna say she didn't wake you up for your Newbie Brothers engagement last week, so
she did last night though.
She did last night? She woke you up?
She woke me up. She goes,
I didn't realize.
It's 8:05. Do you need to be up for your thing? And I was like, huh? Yeah. So.
That was so funny.
Yeah. So,
well,
yeah.
Speaking of previews, damn, do we have a lot today?
There's a lot going on, man.
There's a lot.
We're going to see some stuff, I think.
I agree. I think the movie-going experience is looking bright. And I'm going to be honest, just about every single one of these trailers that I have on here all would be stuff I would like pay to go see. Even some that I thought I was not going to be interested in the slightest. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm like Dennis on Trident, man. 4 out of 5. And I'm
4 out of 5? There's something on here you don't like?
Yeah, I don't care about Last Night in Soho.
Oh. Well, let's start talking about that. Let's talk about that first.
All right.
Last Night in Soho. Edgar Wright, my favorite director.
That's why you care so much, because it's Edgar Wright.
He's doing a horror film. And it's time travel? Like, come on.
I do like Edgar Wright. I'm not
You're not a horror guy.
Fanboy like you, but
I'm a big fanboy.
And I'm definitely not a horror, or the horror genre itself, I think it's just not for me.
Right.
And this just doesn't look like my kind of thing. It looks very stylish. Which
God.
Which is an Edgar Wright,
There's a shot where it's like the guy spinning the girl around, like, and the camera passes them, and on the spin, she turns into the other girl. Like, she turns into the 2 main characters, and I'm just like,
pretty stylish, yeah.
It's so good. I love his style, and the fact that he's doing a horror movie I'm so interested in. And I am absolutely a fanboy. I'll actually tell you too, I did make a tweet about how, like, I got to go see Scott Pilgrim in theaters, and for that to be my return to the movie theaters, I was so happy. It was like, this movie, my favorite movie, blah 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 blah. He liked the tweet.
Oh wow. Look at that. You're like 2 for 2 on Edgar Wright tweets.
Oh, actually 3, I think.
Oh 4? My God.
4?
What? You guys are like, you're best friends with Edgar Wright, basically.
He's retweeted one of my tweets. That was my favorite.
What?
Did I tell you that story? It was Baby Driver. I made my character in the game and the car look like Baby Driver, and I was like, for GTA. I said, I'm excited for Baby Driver, and so is my character in GTA. And he retweeted it, and it got a lot of activity. And I'm just like, I spent so much money on this stupid car in this game for a retweet. Also, it is my favorite car in the game, so I gotta say, like, it definitely worked out. But I think it looks great. I think the plot of, like, fashion designer obsessed with this icon of the 60s, and somehow she's basically reliving through that character's experiences, and it's like the time travel aspect of everything starts falling apart and fights back, and it's creepy and it's crazy. I don't know. It looks crazy. It looks so good.
My thing is, here's my thing. I'm a very meat and potatoes person.
Right.
So I need.
So you don't like the green beans.
I do. Green beans are okay, but you know, when you start bringing in jicama and capers is when I start having a problem. When you start thinking, to me, movies have to have some sort of relatability in them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I can't get that with those. Now I will enjoy stuff that's like outside of the realm of and some fantasy stuff, but typically like all of my stuff is like just straight down the middle. No sci-fi, no horror, you know,
Interesting.
Revenge. You know, that's like pretty much my lane right there.
All right, well, but you still like stylistic stuff.
I look, and that's to say that's like my main lane, but I do so you know, Walter Mitty is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Super stylistic film. Yeah.
Very stylistic,
great,
very fantasy based, but at the end of the day, the movie isn't about the fantasy. The movie is about him having the fantasies.
Totally right.
So that's kind of why I think I could still, you know, my other favorite movies are Django Unchained and you know,
another stylistic film and very over the top at times, but like that's what makes it work is so well.
And you know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, even though that's such a departure from reality.
Yeah.
The thing that makes the movie so cool is its connection to reality of that era.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't want to shit on Last Night in Soho because it's just not my style.
Right. It's just not something that you're interested in. I totally get it.
And if it was on cable, I might check it out. You know what I'm saying? I might give it a watch.
It is a horror film. Even though you love Jordan Peele, I don't imagine you watching Us anytime soon.
Yeah, I wanted to. I really did want to, but I just
That's been 2 years in the making, me trying to get you to watch that movie.
It's just one of those things. It's so hard to get motivated to watch something you're not really that interested in watching, and it's a shame because a lot of times you do watch those things and you're like, oh man. Like, that was really great. I should watch that sooner.
Well, speaking of like meat and potatoes and also stylistic, I wanted to talk about Gunpowder Milkshake. What did you think of this trailer?
All right, so my first thought was John Wick meets Sucker Punch.
I also kind of thought a little bit of that, but remember the movie Atomic Blonde?
I did not see it.
Okay, I will tell you, the plot is very lacking. But the action is stellar. Like, that's the best part of the movie is the action. Whereas John Wick works because it's action and the plot, like, sells it, and it's really great. And there's a very simple premise to everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gunpowder Milkshake, I think, looks closer to John Wick, but with a brighter style than Atomic Blonde or a Sucker Punch to me. It looks like John Wick, but with a with a color palette swap. You know what I mean?
It's got a kind of a Suicide Squad aesthetic almost.
Almost, yeah.
But to me, it's not that it's like John Wick. It's that it feels like it's kind of ripping off John Wick with one of the scenes that you see in the trailer. She goes to the library.
Right. Very John Wick, yeah.
In the John Wick universe, this underground where everything has a different meaning. So all these different books that she's requesting are actually different types of guns. Which, but if it was in John Wick, I would think was cool as hell.
Sure, but because this is so much like John Wick, it almost feels like a ripoff, which I totally get.
It feels like a ripoff.
But I have heard the argument before. I've heard, what was it? Whereas somebody's argument was like, why would we do Jane Wick? Why wouldn't we just make a new character and a new lore behind it? And I totally agree with that. And I think this is the closest thing we're getting right now. But again, there's so much inspired from John Wick.
Why do we need Jane Wick? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, exactly, because John Wick is already a thing, and Keanu says he'll do like 1 billion of these movies, and that's fine. But also, I'm saying, like, if we want a female-led movie just like John Wick, we don't need it to be Jane Wick. We just need it to be its own character, its own thing. So that's what I'm saying, where I'm just like, I like the direction they're taking, and sure, there's going to be a lot of inspirations from John Wick. But at the same time, there seems to be a good amount of, like, humor and like, a very different story from what John Wick was, to a degree. And I don't know. I'm interested.
It all feels
very John
played out. It all, not John Wick either. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they betrayed their big hit. If you want to even go back even further, right. You know what I mean? Like, it's not original.
Sure, a lot of things have done this.
It feels like a pandery kind of thing, and I mean, I don't know. I just
are you saying that? Sure, but I'm just saying, are you saying you wouldn't see it?
Again, not saying I would 100% rule it out to see it, but it just, to me, it's like it just feels like a forced, ham-fisted attempt at trying to, like, make some sort of statement by ripping off several other movies' plots and finer points. I mean,
but again, like you said, like, this plot has been going back, at least for betraying the agency and whatever. Like, that's been going back forever. Like, you could say everything's been doing that. This is not the first movie to do that. But I'm just saying, even if all of that stuff really, really bothered me, the visuals and the action of the movie alone would be the reason why I'd buy a ticket to see it.
And there does seem to be some, like, good funny moments, like, in the trailer, you know what I mean? Like, there seems to, it all feels very forced.
There's this one shot towards the end of the trailer where it's them in a diner, and it's like the waitresses are, like, shooting up people and, like, slamming people's heads into milkshakes.
That's such a John Wick move, though.
But again, like, the colors is what I'm talking, like, the style and the humor behind a girl in, like, a rollerblades skirt 50s outfit in a 50s diner, also wielding double magnums and, like, pulling people's faces into milk. Like, that just seems like fun. And it's something that, like, again, I don't go to see Fast and Furious because I care about Dom Toretto. I care because I want to see cars fly.
You don't want to know what's going to happen with the family?
Shit with the family. Never, ever. I want to see if they're going to space. So I'm saying I will watch.
Going to space. That's all that's left.
And I'm happy that it's happening. I'm just saying I'm watching. I'd watch Gunpowder Milkshake to have a good time. I'm not looking for Shakespeare with bullets. You know what I mean? Like
Gunpowder Milk Shakespeare.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean,
that's good.
Fast and Furious 10, where they drag race on the moon.
And William Shakespeare is up there, like, delivering a soliloquy about family.
Oh, for the muse of fire that should ascend the brightest heaven of invention, Dominic Toretto is the fastest driver on the moon. I get it, and I'm not like hating on it, and I might watch it.
I bet you a lot of people are gonna love the movie even if it's garbage.
I think that happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've gotten 9 Fast and Furious movies.
I mean, we've also got 9 Star Wars movies, and 3 of them were good. Hot take.
That was a hot take. All right, well, let's I'll let you choose our next trailer we're talking about. We got a lot.
I think we should save it to last. So
sure.
Jungle Cruise, I mean, this is pretty cut and dry. Looks like a fun time.
Looks like I think somebody said The Mummy meets Pirates of the Caribbean.
I mean, that's literally exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So
and a little bit of Jumanji, but that's just because The Rock's in it.
Right, and because it's in a jungle.
Sure.
I love the
Emily
actress
Blunt.
in it. Emily Blunt. I love Emily Blunt. I think it looks like she's gonna be fun, and obviously The Rock is awesome. So I mean, if you just want to turn your brain off for a little bit, I think you're gonna have a great time with this movie.
Do you think this will become another? Do you think this will ever be as popular or as well received as the Pirates of the Caribbean movies were? Do you think this is the next Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy?
I don't think so. I think that was lightning in a bottle.
Yeah,
I think I do. I mean,
well, realistically, the first one was just so well received because of Jack Sparrow, and then they literally made the next two movies off of Jack Sparrow. As much as I love The Rock and Emily Blunt, neither of them are Jack Sparrow.
No, absolutely right.
Neither of them are Johnny Depp.
And you know, as awesome as The Rock is, he doesn't have like his box office draw isn't that great. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, like, you know, I bet if you looked at his movie scores, they're not super high. Like as far as like money goes, I'm sure they make money, or else they wouldn't keep hashtag name. But you know, aside from movies like Jumanji and the Fast and Furious movies, you know, I bet you know, what was that one? Skyscraper?
Yeah. Skyscraper. Where he's Die Hard, but he's missing a leg.
But it was limp hard because he was missing a leg.
That movie was literally just like, it's Die Hard. They literally were like, it's Die Hard.
I mean, they didn't even try to hide it.
No. I think even in the trailer, they're like, it's like Die Hard.
Dude, I mean, still right now, movies are still not making any money at the box office.
I'm sure. Yeah. Nobody's really ready to go back, I think. But you know what? This is a golden time for me to go to the movies because then nobody's going to be there.
I like that. Yeah, that's something great about that.
That's literally the best way to watch a movie in a theater is if nobody else is there. Unless it's like a film. Like a funny film.
All time, the movie Skyscraper made $68 million. But international, it made $236.
That sounds about right. That movie definitely was an international hit.
Which, by the way, is why our movies suck so much now.
Because they focus so much on international rather than domestic.
Right. Yeah, sure. Exactly right. So, Skyscraper.
Do you think Jungle Cruise is going to be that?
No, because
I feel like Jungle Cruise is going to be something.
I do. I think it'll do great. I really do. Yeah. It's not, but again, just to say that it's not going to be
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, you're talking about that movie was a powerhouse.
It really was. Yeah.
I mean, that was like, and the best part was like it was really unexpected,
especially from Disney. Like,
right.
It was a creepy film, and I loved it. It was so good.
But like Jack Sparrow was like that dude.
Yeah.
You know, like that movie made $305 million domestically. And then internationally it went on to make another $348 million.
And that was what, 2003? 3. I was gonna say 5.
No, it was 2003. And you know, it's so funny because I don't know if they even knew
what they
had with Jack Sparrow what they had, because the movie.
Well, remember, he was supposed to be a side character. Like I think that he was even supposed to die off in the first one.
I mean, but like somebody saw him was like, okay, there's something here.
They literally rewrote the movie around him.
I mean, because nobody cared really about Will Turner or the other
Elizabeth Swann.
You know, they just didn't care about it. So I mean, it became, you know. So like that's a good pivot, and that's, you know, kind of where we might be headed with this. The reason I think Jungle Cruise will do okay domestically, is because it's such an American thing, the Jungle Cruise ride.
Well, that was the other thing I was gonna say, where it's like I think that as much as I do agree that it's not going to be the next Pirates of the Caribbean, boy does it feel like it. I mean, you watched that trailer, and I was just like, this feels like a Pirates movie,
right?
And it doesn't feel like, you know, On Stranger Tides. It feels like, you know, Dead Man's Chest, Curse of the Black Pearl. It feels like a classic Pirates film.
And it's not an accident that it feels like that.
No, they definitely made it that way.
You know, they're looking for that fun, charismatic,
based off of a ride.
But you have heard of me. So I guess I owe Rock a bit of an apology.
Why?
It's the movie San Andreas.
Oh God.
Yeah, it made $155 million domestically.
That upsets me because I hate disaster films.
Oh,
I think the only disaster film I ever liked was The Day After Tomorrow, but it's only because I made fun of it.
Steven,
Name another disaster movie that I should
like?
love, that I should love, or that you.
2012 is incredible.
Nope.
Armageddon.
All right, Armageddon's pretty good.
I mean, come on, bro.
I forgot about Armageddon. Bro. Maybe I'm just thinking of the modern disaster movies. Any time that I've seen a modern disaster movie, especially like 2012, I remember watching it. I was just like, I can't stand any of this.
John Cusack? Oh my god.
Hey, buddy. I love John Cusack, but he couldn't save that movie from me.
That movie was awesome. The limo ride. The limo drive.
I saw, you know what? I will give credit to the animators on that ride. I did see a breakdown of the CGI they used for that whole thing. And it was literally like, oh yeah, it took like 150 days just for the computers to process that shot of like the limo ride.
It was a great scene.
Yeah.
Sorry. And they had Chiodell, unpronounceable name in that movie. He was great in that.
Chiodell, unpronounceable.
I mean, it was like, dude, I look, I love disaster flicks. Twister, Volcano.
Oh my god.
Greenland. I haven't seen it yet, but I want to. Geostorm. The Core.
Dude, you liked Geostorm?
I haven't seen it. No, Greenland I haven't seen. Geostorm. Oh. No, here's what I'm about to say on this. I know some of those are legitimately bad,
but you enjoy them.
But sometimes I like bad movies. That's fine. And disaster movies are that that vein.
Just talking about Fast and Furious.
Yeah, totally. So, but with that said, I don't feel like I did not sexually.
All right, nice.
I do not feel like 2012 falls into the pit of bad movie that's enjoyable to watch. I think it's a good movie.
Maybe I gotta rewatch it.
I don't know, man. Like I just like the because a lot of times one of the things that makes Armageddon great, right, is that we're talking about the end of the world. We're talking about the devastation of the entire human race, right?
Right.
But we don't care about that. What we care about is this one guy who's trying to just save his daughter. Right, at the end of the day, that's what he's doing, right?
Sure.
And I feel like that's the same thing that 2012 has with John Cusack and his journey. You know what I mean? Because like the movie's like broken into several parts.
Right.
And you know what you get with the John Cusack portion of the film is him just trying to save his kids. Because what's happening to the earth, it's unavoidable. There's nothing you can do.
Right.
A lot of these disaster movies, they try to do something to make it stop or to fix it. But in this movie, it's inevitable. All you can do is either try to find a way to save yourself or die. So John Cusack is doing everything he can, everything within his power, and even beyond his power to save his family. And that's it. That's all that he cares about. And that's like, I don't know, again, we're talking about relatable stuff, and that's where it goes. And then the other part of it is Chiodell, can't say his name, trying to convince, these bureaucrats of like, we need to do something about this, which is, by the way, a theme in almost every disaster movie.
The amount of times that's somebody being like, we have exactly 2 years, and then they get new papers and they're like, I mean 24 hours.
Well, they always mess up the equation.
Yeah, it's like we had a number off.
We have 132 days. I'm sorry, that's 132 minutes.
Oh, you know what? I apologize. There is a disaster movie that I absolutely love, and it's the Simpsons film. It's the Simpsons movie.
It was a disaster.
That's a great movie. And they're like, don't worry, Twister? We've cleaned. Twister it's okay. I like Volcano. Volcano. I can't because every time I look at Tommy Lee Jones, he's got that unibrow, and I never take him seriously.
The guy was walking through the subway carrying another dude, and then the lava just ate him, and he gorilla pressed the guy onto the subway train. You didn't love that? Oh, it's so good.
So anyways, they put a barrier around Lake Springfield, and they can't throw anything in the thing. And then instead of like the disaster movie where it's like we have 2 years and then it's like, oh, we have 24 hours. It's actually Homer who decides to dump an entire silo of pig crap in the lake, and it destroys Springfield. Dude, I love that movie so much.
You really got that one really got you, huh?
I love that movie. It's dumb. I always say the joke. My favorite joke in that movie is when they're like, oh, they're giving away free donuts, and Chief Wiggum is walking by, and he's got donuts on the barrel of his gun, and he's eating the donuts. And then the gun goes off and he pulls back and it shoots a hole through his hat and he just goes, wow, that was close. And then he just starts eating the donuts again. It's pretty good. They got some great Simpsons humor in that movie. I'll say that like some of the best Simpsons jokes are all in the Simpsons movie. Or at least the type of humor that I love from the Simpsons.
I suppose. I don't know. I didn't hate the Simpsons movie.
I love it. I love it. It's so quotable for me.
You know what? And also, I don't want to come off like I'm not this harsh movie person.
No, of course not.
I like movies.
You have been going on about the journey of John Cusack in 2012. I don't think anybody thinks you're a harsh movie person.
I'm just saying, yeah.
I mean, however, you did say 3 out of the 9 Star Wars movies are good.
Well, to be fair, 3 out of the 9 Star Wars movies are damn near perfect.
And then there's, a bunch of other ones.
And then there's the truck full of things that Homer Simpson dumped into Springfield Lake.
All right. And it rhymes with Schmogut and Smun. That's an okay movie. Is it funny that we're 30 minutes into this episode and we've only said 3 of these trailers?
That's 10 minutes of trailer. I think that's a good pace.
It's so great, except we've like barely talked about Jungle Cruise. I think we talked more about.
We did 4.
We did 4? What did we do?
4. Jungle Cruise, Last Night in Soho, and Gunpowder Milkshake. That's 3. That's my bad.
Which one would you like to do next?
Let's do Tomorrow War.
Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt.
Looks fun.
Does look fun. Looks pretty standard.
I mean, it does. It does seem like your standard kind of thing, and again, futuristic kind of stuff like that. Not really my bag, but I like Chris Pratt.
I feel like they made fun of their own genre when the guy's like, "How are you so calm throughout this?" And he's like, "It's a long story." And he's like, "Ex-military?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I guess it was a short story." I'm like, "Wow, would you look at that? The plot of every action movie ever. I'm just a simple mechanic." But I also have 14 service tours.
Well, what was the movie I tried to get my wife to watch the other day?
Rambo Last
Blood. Oh no, Army of the Dead.
Oh, okay. Did you watch? I haven't seen it yet.
I didn't watch it yet because because my wife doesn't want to watch it, so I got to find time to watch it. So
I've heard it's too long, which doesn't surprise me. It's Zack Snyder.
Dave Bautista is working in a diner.
That's
you
right.
Know what I mean? It's like, I normally during the day I cook up hash browns, but I'm a retired Navy SEAL. It's like, what? Those two things doesn't. No.
What is Zack Snyder trying to say about how we treat our veterans in this country?
I mean, look, we don't want to have to get political.
Well, sure.
We should, especially as we approach Memorial Day weekend, we should be treating our veterans.
I completely agree. Oh my God, I've said that for years. It's like that. Anyways, yeah, we shouldn't get political. Anyways, I agree. Dave Bautista, regardless of how many tours he served, should not be working at a diner.
Exactly. But
just to face a zombie horde.
I feel like this. I feel like, especially since it's going to be on Prime, I'm gonna watch it. Yeah. And my wife's into it. I think she likes Chris Pratt.
Can I tell you though, like that was a 2.5 minute trailer talking about some future war with aliens, and we didn't see the aliens until the last 4 seconds of the trailer.
Is that good though? I mean, I kind of.
I don't think that's a good thing.
No. Well, I mean, I see what you're saying. Like it's a bad thing for the movie overall. Because it probably means that they did a shitty job on the aliens.
That's what I'm thinking. They looked dumb when I saw them in the trailer. I was like, oh, that's not scary.
But I like the idea of trailers. I feel like trailers give away too much nowadays.
Oh, sure, but I just mean an entire movie that's based around a war. I'd like to see the enemy at some point.
Really? You don't want to wait? You don't want it to be revealed to you during the movie?
No, like in the trailer, I'd like if they're like, this is a war with aliens, and then the entire trailer is like showing them running from stuff. I don't. Because that seemed to be most of the trailer was just them like travel shot, snowy travel shot, in the rain travel shot. While they're like, this war's been going on forever, and it's just travel shot.
This war has been going on forever, but not as long as this 5K that we're doing to raise awareness for the alien war.
For the alien war. That's actually why they're drafted. For the people who don't know the plot, it's literally like people from the future use a time machine to come to our past and say, in 5 years, there's going to be an unavoidable war with an alien species, and we're drafting people to come to the future with us to fight the war.
Which, by the way, seems a little ridiculous.
A little?
I mean, like, I don't understand time travel. Let me clarify that, because I'm sure that there's more to it than I understand. But
it's very confusing.
If you can travel back in time, why don't you just set up something to, like, make the war easier at that point? You know what I mean?
Why go back 5 years and not 30 years and start telling people, hey, focus on this alien war that's coming?
Yeah, like maybe give them some of the tech that you've got from that point.
Sure.
Let them build on that.
Sure.
You know, give it to some of the brightest minds. Let them work on.
But no, instead their idea is, well, let's just get more people from the past and give them our same like modern day guns. That was the other thing. None of them looked like they had any future tech other than a wristband that lets them travel to the future.
Yeah, I figured like if you got time travel worked out, wouldn't you have other better stuff too? You know what I mean? Like, and also, and this is the part of time travel I don't understand. If you're yanking people from the past, won't that eliminate them from the future? Or are they taking people that just get killed in the beginning?
Maybe
of the war,
or people who die in the war at that point, so they're just like added back into the timeline.
Well, it's 30 years later, so a lot of those people wouldn't be born, or they'd be.
Oh, that's a good point. Was it 30 years? I've been saying 5 this whole time.
Is it 5? Oh, it might be 5.
If I swear I heard them say 5, and I was like, damn, they figured out time travel in 5 years.
Maybe the alien war's in 5 years.
Tony Stark's on their damn team.
I don't know what's going on. It's a lot. It is. I know that. And also, speaking of aliens, I heard via the Crazy People Network that like the QAnons and stuff like that, the aliens are they're going to make a big alien announcement. The government is on the 1st of June.
Oh, really?
So this movie might be a documentary.
Oh, cool. I'm excited.
And it does have Chris Pratt in it, so.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see meet our new alien overlords. That's
a bad time.
No.
You're gonna have a bad time.
Every major elected official will all get up on TV, and then they're all gonna remove their mask, and it's just gonna be a lizard head. And we're gonna be like, I knew
it. Would any single one of us be surprised if that happened?
I don't think so. At that point, we'd be like,
And to make it clear, we mean every elected official.
I said every elected official. Thank you very much.
We're not taking a single side on that.
Nope.
So.
Okay, so yeah, Tomorrow War looks fun. Looks fine. Eat Wheaties. Wow.
Yeah.
This is very different from everything we've talked about. This is interesting.
I think it's a Hulu original, right?
I
think so. And I watched the trailer and I thought, wow, that's really interesting. Like, it's this guy gets obsessed. So like he gets appointed
like high
to
school. Yeah.
I think it's college where he's part of the reunion team.
Right.
And he gets on Facebook for the first. He didn't have Facebook this entire time, so he gets on Facebook for the first time, and he went to college with Elizabeth Banks, which they're making out to be Jennifer Aniston in this thing, like the biggest star in the world. That was the other
thing. I was like,
I do love Elizabeth Banks.
I do too.
Twisted. I'm a fan of her game show that she hosts. I like all the movies she's been in.
Is she coming out? Is she gonna be in this movie? She's gonna be.
She's got to. And here's the thing. And maybe that's the point, though. Maybe that because if they made it Meryl Streep, it would be too big.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, but Elizabeth Banks, so he like starts messaging her, but he thinks it's her, but it's actually like her fan page, and
Oh,
then
that's right.
he goes viral for it, and it becomes like this whole weird thing because like if you these days the internet is just ruining people's lives
Sure.
nonstop. So that's what this is kind of about. So it looks interesting. It looks cringy, funny, and I'm into it, and I'm pretty stoked to see it.
I can't do a lot of awkward humor. Like it's
Really,
yeah, like Rachel is my least favorite to watch on Friends because it's always just her putting herself in just horrible situations.
I think that's generational. You know what I mean? I think your
Generational.
generation doesn't like the awkward feelings, but we love it.
Yeah, I mean, like I like The Office, but there's plenty of times in that where I'm just like, ooh, I can't do it. That's most of The Office.
It's Michael Scott's entire existence.
Which is funny because he's my favorite character in that show.
I'm a part of several office groups on Facebook.
Of course you are.
Everybody loves Michael Scott, and I'm like, this guy was one of the worst human beings ever.
Yeah. But so is like Jim and Pam. Like they're horrible people.
They're not that bad.
No, just because they're supposed to be considered like the straight man of the whole show doesn't mean that they're not like actively messing with people the entire time. Like pranks on Dwight is one thing, but they're like all right, Jim and Pam as a thing. I can't believe we're talking about this now.
Yeah, we really are taking a left turn here.
Jim and Pam as a thing, whatever. Jim himself, I love him, but he's awful. He's just awful.
What? Explain yourself. Explain yourself, Tate.
Kate?
Tate. Tate Donovan. I don't know. I don't know.
I was figuring out where you're going with that. No, I just mean like he just did a lot of like crappy stuff on the show as a What do you mean, like what? All right, like for one thing, like they even touched on it towards the later seasons that like Dwight could have been like on the spectrum, but the entire time he's like torturing Dwight.
But nobody knew what that meant back then.
Well, sure, but you know what I mean. It's like regardless, he's still being mean. He actively like he had a lot of like marital stuff going on too, like with Pam.
Also, Dwight was a pain in the ass, and that's why he got messed with.
That is true.
Dwight was a pain in the ass and a kiss ass. Spectrum or no, he got what he got. We end up growing to love Dwight because we end up growing to accept him for his flaws.
Dwight is a lovable character by the end of the show, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, he didn't do anything lasting.
I will say, I think honestly, when people do look back at the show, I think most people are like, I think all of them were kind of horrible people except like Stanley.
Well, see, that's my thing too. Like with that, like the reason I liked Parks and Rec so much is because I thought Parks and Rec was The Office, but the people were better people. Not all the people.
Not all of them.
Like, not Tom.
Tom's probably the worst of them all.
I think Ron is like just like the gold standard of good people.
You're right.
And of course Leslie Knope is like one of the kind-heartedest people you've ever met in your life.
She's literally just constantly trying to make people happy.
But like I got no problem with Jim making a move on Pam. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he's got no. Now the fact that he kind of took it like a bitch when Roy came at him, that's embarrassing.
But that's also like early season stuff. I mean, he also had like some on the rock stuff here and there. They did that whole thing where like Pam had like some thing going on with one of the like the boom mic guy or the camera guy or whatever. What was that like? And like
Brian.
Yeah, and they were teasing a lot of like stuff going on, and I guess that was a plot point they were gonna get to, and they're like, no, this might be a little too real. And I'm like, how much worse were you gonna make it going on?
I don't know, man. Like, but Jim didn't take part in any of that. I have no problem arguing that Pam's. What did Jim do?
No, like they were implying that he was doing stuff that made like Brian, the camera guy or whatever, like was comforting her, like that kind of stuff.
She was upset because he was out of town.
And he was doing stuff while out of town.
No,
that's what they were. That was the plot point. That was the plot point they were going to do, and then they didn't. And I'm like, how much worse? Yes, they didn't do. We can't even talk about this.
I mean, that didn't even exist. You're like making it like a plot.
Well, I'm not saying that was the only reason. I'm not saying that was the only reason.
If Pam would have supported him in his dreams, maybe.
But yeah, Eat Wheaties looks pretty good.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna. I might check that out this weekend, actually.
Oh, is it out already?
Yeah, I think it's on Hulu. I think I saw it.
Dude, I started watching that MODOK show.
Oh, how is that?
It's not for me. Martin really likes it though. My buddy, you know Martin. He's really enjoying it. I watched like the first 3 episodes, and I was like, how many more of this is there? And I saw it was 10 episodes, and I was like, can't do it. And they're an hour each episode. They're an hour each episode, and I feel like they shouldn't be an hour.
That's a lot.
That's a lot for like that style show.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I like Robot Chicken. That's what I've heard is like, if you like Marvel and you like Robot Chicken, like you're going to love this show. The best, honestly, the thing that I like the most about the show, John Hamm voices Iron Man. And he like shows up every now and then. Yeah. And I love John Hamm. So like him being Iron Man's pretty cool. But Patton Oswalt's great. But yeah, I'm just not super into it personally. I'm sure a lot of people love it. But Infinite, another one that we were going to talk about today with Marky Mark. Looks pretty good.
Got those good vibrations. Yeah.
Sorry.
So one of the last movies I saw from Marky Mark was Mile 22, which is a movie that's a grower, not a shower. Like first time I saw it, didn't love it that much, but kind of a couple other times on cable, and I was like, okay, this is actually a pretty decent movie. This movie, also, by the way, how is Mark Wahlberg like 50 whatever and just still?
He looks great.
Jesus, man. I'm like younger than him, and I am just a pile of garbage. I look like a sack full of meat parts. It's just not good. Anyway,
when is Marky Mark and Paul Rudd gonna do a movie together?
I would love to see that. I think that would be fun. It'd be fun to see them as brothers. You know what I mean?
Brother cops.
Maybe not.
Maybe not brother cops.
Maybe not. But this movie looks pretty good. I'm interested. It's got this kind of reincarnation theme kind of underlying.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like he's lived basically since the beginning of time, and he like in reincarnation he's like been this warrior through all of it. And I guess he lost his memory. And this is the life that they're trying to like remind him. Like the guy interrogating him, that scene was incredible, but the guy interrogating him right at the end was like, "Welcome back, old friend." And I'm like, all right, so I guess these two knew each other throughout all this time, and just Marky Mark forgot. And
seems like it.
There's a lot going on in the trailer, and honestly, I was gonna say like this is another movie that I feel like you could probably just shut off your brain and love.
Yeah.
Or watch it with your brain on and love. Like it could be like it could be another what was it? Boss Level? Remember how much fun Boss Level was? And that was a movie that is like you wanted to pay attention because like regardless of the action, it was just fun.
The plot just ended up being so good and so rich. Right. No, I don't know. We'll see. It could be really good or it could be really, really, really bad. I don't feel like there's an in between on this.
Yeah, I think so too. But you know what? On terms of action that I was looking at, it looked like it was a lot of fun. So, yeah, I'm very much interested in it. All right, well, the next one and the last one we got is Eternals, the next Marvel film, the next big Marvel film. And honestly, the trailer doesn't tell us much.
Yeah, no, it's like real. And like, I don't know anything about the Eternals.
I could tell you very little. I could tell you basically they are ancient beings that have essentially lived almost forever. There are these one step above level of like godly beings called celestials. Like in Guardians of the Galaxy, we see a celestial in a video like destroy a planet with the Power Stone. The head nowhere, you know, the floating decapitated head in space that became like a civilization. That is a decapitated head of a celestial. So they are like the biggest godly beings, and they created the Eternals, which are other, you know, lower level godly beings that I guess have helped guide Earth in all of its years, like not really interfering, but help like there's a shot where it shows them like creating water. You know what I mean? Like they kind of shaped the Earth, and the Eternals in general have like, I'm trying to remember what they're called, but they're essentially like almost like the evil cousins of like the Eternals, like a bad group. And there's actually a character in the MCU who's a part of that group that we've already met, who's a part of the bad group.
Was it Ego?
It was Thanos.
Really?
In fact, Angelina Jolie's character, I believe, is actually like related to Thanos in the movie. Or so it's like, it's very interesting where they're going with it. We don't know much about the plot. My assumption of what it's going to be is at some point they, if not all of them, but some of them lost their memory. Very similar to this Infinite thing with Mark Wahlberg. And they have lived through all this time and they just believe they are human and they just forgot of their powers. But all of them are very a diverse cast that have brought their own, you know, culture and influence to the world, and they've just lived through all of it. And their whole thing is they try not to interfere with human history too much, which is also probably how they're going to explain whether they lost their memory and they didn't really know that they could do anything about Thanos, or that they just decided we still have to be impartial and above this kind of deal. But regardless, the plot being so mystery, by the end of the trailer, I was like, I'm in. I'm so in, and I don't know why. I don't know anything about this movie, but I'm so interested.
I was already in.
Yeah.
Just because it's Marvel. But it definitely, what you're describing kind of gives me Hancock vibes.
A little bit of Hancock vibes, actually.
Because they talked, that's kind of like when they were describing, when she was in the scene where she was describing what they were to him. That sounds a lot like what that is.
A lot like the Eternals, sure.
I saw a thing that was kind of equating their magical outlines to looks like lesser versions of the Wizards' power lines.
Oh, okay. Sure.
So,
like they could have brought sorcery to humans. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's one of the like working theories right now. But I mean, the only thing that kind of scares me about this movie is that there's a lot of people in it.
Right. And I normally would be worried about that too. But Guardians of the Galaxy worked, and that was a large cast. Of course, this is bigger than Guardians of the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. And I personally don't think all of them are going to shine so much. However, I do think them coming together as a group at whatever point in the movie it'll happen, I'm very excited to see how they're going to handle all that. Like, even all of them just sitting around the table at the end of the trailer, like, eating. I was like, for some reason, I already love this scene, and I don't know anything about these characters.
Well, it's funny because like during the Infinity War, like they just weren't there. They just didn't show up, and that's
exactly.
like a lot of people are calling them no-shows.
Well, I think that's that's what we're going to learn in the movie is like why, whether it be their code and they can't interfere too much. Like even that scene where they're sitting around the table, they do that thing where it's like, so now that Cap and Tony, and Iron Man aren't, around anymore, like, who's going to lead the Avengers? And one of them's like, I could. And then they all laugh because I think they're so above the Avengers too. You know what I mean? Like,
I just assumed that was like some sort of nod to him actually being a leader of the Avengers later on in some point in the comics.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know. Again, I don't know. Like, I didn't read the comics and I'm super far behind on it, but dude, look, I'm in. So
yeah,
whatever you do, we'll figure it out when we get there.
Well, that took us 50 minutes to get through all the trailers.
Sweet. Can we talk about the main thing I want to get to?
Sure.
Is the last two stories for sure.
Let's look at it. Which ones did I put? Oh, okay, yeah. Real quick, just because we're still on Marvel, I just wanted to say Aaron Taylor Johnson is going to play Craven the Hunter, which I think is really cool. It's going to be like, they're doing Venom, they're doing Morbius, and now they're doing Craven. They're literally making solo films based on Spider-Man villains, and this is the one I think is most likely that Spider-Man would actually be involved in, because Craven the Hunter is literally like, his plot is that he is hunting Spider-Man, like the most dangerous game, but on drugs. It's literally Spider-Man. So I don't think you could do that without Spider-Man's involvement. And if it's going to be Tom Holland, Aaron Taylor Johnson was already Quicksilver in the MCU. So I think that would just more solidify that there is 2 Tom Holland universes.
Which
is so crazy.
I mean, that's interesting.
That's where I'm coming from.
So, is this going to be part of the universe Carnage?
It's going to be a part of Venom, Carnage, which we didn't even talk about that trailer. I forgot that trailer came out.
Yeah, the second one came out. Looks good. Looks like they're trying to make it more of a comedy, more of a slapsticky.
Looks fun. Yeah, it looks like the Venom stuff is going to be fun. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be part of that universe. Morbius is part of that universe. The Jared Leto vampire film that everybody forgot about. That's going to be part of that universe. Sony's just making a lot of effort for the villains for Spider-Man, which I think is interesting.
I'm interested. I'm curious.
There is a plot line in a Craven the Hunter comic book where he does hunt and kill Spider-Man, and then he realizes he made a huge mistake because now there is no Spider-Man, so he becomes the next Spider-Man. I don't think they're gonna do that plot line, but I just mean, regardless, his main plot is he is a hunter. He hunts wildlife, and he thinks the biggest challenge would be to take on something like Spider-Man. So I think they couldn't do a movie about him without that kind of character.
Kind of like Predator.
Right. Like, sure. Like maybe he has to hunt Venom, and it's Eddie Brock in the movie, and he's the stand-in for Spider-Man. You know,
that'd be fun to watch for sure.
So yeah, that'll be interesting. The other story we need to get to is this Deadpool Rated R thing. Tim Miller, who has worked on both Deadpool films and wrote it with Ryan Reynolds, he says Deadpool doesn't need an R rating to work, and his exact quote was, "You can take the R-rated parts out of it if you wanted to, and it would still be Deadpool if Ryan Reynolds was doing it." Do we agree with that statement?
No. I mean, I was going to try to quantify it with something and do some sort of verbal acrobatics to get around to the point that it's much more fun if he gets to be himself.
I agree. So I agree that Disney and putting Deadpool in the MCU, I think he could work with PG-13. That's not to say I think he shines better if he has the R rating. You know what I mean? Like, he needs to have the freedom of gore and bad words and self-deprecating jokes because that's just the character. And if you take a lot of that stuff out, it just will feel like he's just some crazy guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's not nearly as funny. I don't
think so either. They made a PG-13 version of Deadpool 2 for like a Christmas thing.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it. And it's because it's like, why would I? You know what I mean? If the rated R is an option. I guess really what I'm saying is, like, I will still see Deadpool if it's PG-13. I'm not going to be happy about it. I'm not going to be happy
it's definitely
about
not PG-13. It's certainly not going to be as good as if it were an R rated.
No, I agree.
And we've seen that with, a ton of different movies. Now, I feel like it relies on, it doesn't relies too strong a word because
it doesn't need it, but it benefits so much from it that it almost does.
Here's the thing. Steak doesn't need seasoning when you cook it.
It's true.
But guess what? It's so much better if you use the right seasoning.
Sure.
So.
And that's what I mean, where it's like, it's still a good film if it doesn't have it, but why not make it a great film if you have
Absolutely.
it? And I think hearing an interview like this with Tim Miller almost makes me fearful that that's in the talks, even though I believe
I'm sure.
I believe Kevin Feige said they would still try to keep Deadpool solo movies rated R, which I believe him, that they're going to try. Disney execs might not be happy with that. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with the future of Deadpool, and how they're going to use him, and if they're going to let him shine the way he should. I do agree that regardless of the rating, Deadpool at this point is Ryan Reynolds. Like, you can't do Deadpool without him being Ryan Reynolds at this point.
No, yeah.
He just makes the characters
absolutely
so perfect on the screen. But Okay, so the other story you wanted to get to. Wow, it was almost like a teaser for all of your other hot takes earlier today. J.J. Abrams said the sequels would have been better if they had a plan from the beginning, which all I can say is, as somebody who really enjoys the sequels, I found a lot to love about each and every one of them. It's definitely, they do have their faults. But when I hear a story like J.J. Abrams says they would be better if they have a plan, all I can think is, well, no, duh. Like, I mean, that is everything.
Without question. You know, one of the reasons some of the best shows on TV are the best shows on TV is because they don't rely on being updated the next season or picked up for the next season. They've got a beginning and they've got an end, no matter what happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
So to say that is like the biggest, like, yeah, of course.
Sure.
You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Like, no, I completely agree. There was this discussion going around on the Star Wars TikTok community, where it was basically like, where do you start somebody on Star Wars? Because there's so many young people who are like, you absolutely need to start on episode 1, which is ridiculous.
I saw the girl that
Marianne.
Yes, Marianne. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting her name. I saw her TikTok where she was talking about you don't want like chronologically, if you started, you'd start with Rogue One, correct?
No, chronologically, if you were starting it, you would start with episode 1, which is The Phantom Menace. Which, yeah.
Sorry.
Like that's a lot of arguments for a lot of young people, a lot of people my age, because they grew up with the prequels and they think the Star Wars story is about Anakin Skywalker when it's not.
I've seen better acting at the Dollhouse down on
all right.
down on Phillips Highway, because that is some really bad performances. So okay, here's where I'm going to disagree with you. I think the movies, all of them, are, or at the very least should be, following the Skywalker family.
I agree. No, I agree with that.
So I mean, if it's about Anakin.
No. This is what I mean, though. Like, if it's focusing on the Skywalker family, then that works for all 9 movies, because in the sequel trilogies, it's about getting to Luke. And the second, that's the first one, is about getting to Skywalker. And the second one, it's about what does it mean to be the name and the title Skywalker. And the third one, it's somebody at the end becoming the next lineage of Skywalker. At that point, it's still, all of 9 movies are about that. When you start from the prequels and then you still make, because in most people's minds when they go, Anakin Skywalker is the main character, he's the one to bring balance to the Force. They focus so heavily on that prophecy. And then in the original trilogies, it's like, well, he did throw Emperor Palpatine down an elevator shaft, so that means he did it. He brought balance to the Force, and it's Anakin Skywalker's journey in those 6 movies. And then the next 3, Anakin Skywalker is barely mentioned, and he's not even involved. And that's where people get upset. And that's where a lot of people in my generation hate the sequels, just as people who grew up on the original trilogy hate the prequels, where it's like, anything new that doesn't talk specifically about what I was interested in when it's Star Wars, I'm going to hate it. So that's where my argument is. If you start in the middle, just like how George Lucas started, you get Luke Skywalker's journey. Then you go back to the prequels and you get the story of his father. And then you go to the sequels and you get the final stories related to these family members. And that's where I think that's where it's important to start. And then that's where the plan all comes together, where it's like, if they had the plan from the beginning with the sequels and they knew exactly their beginning, middle, end, they knew they were going to get 3 movies. It's Disney, for God's sakes. I don't know why, just like you said, like TV shows don't rely on that. They just have a beginning, middle, end, and they don't concern themselves too much about getting picked up again.
Well, right, because if you don't have the arc figured out by the time you get picked up, you're going to be scrambling, and there's a lot of filler. You know what I mean? Another reason streaming is so much better than network is because network's 22 episodes, streaming's 13.
Right.
So you don't have to fill as much. So I think that's like, to me, when you talk about I know I'm biased because I grew up on the original trilogy. You know what I mean?
That's fine. Like, everybody's biased.
Return of the Jedi was my everything when I was 7 years old. Because that's when it came out, and that's when I was, you know, malleable as a kid.
Sure.
And the toys were my life. You know what I mean? Like, I loved their toys and stuff like that. So
it was the right age. It was the right time. It was everything for you. Not only that, but also recency bias. Sure.
And you know, when I watched the prequels, when I watched the prequels as a man, not as a kid.
Yeah, because you were
as a man.
Yeah.
I wasn't taken with, you know, I didn't feel like it did the originals justice.
That's where people feel about the sequels, and where a lot of, especially people in my generation, where they grew up on the story of Anakin Skywalker, and then that story was continued in the original trilogy if they watched it in that order, and then Anakin Skywalker isn't even mentioned, so they did not do Anakin Skywalker or the prophecy justice. And that's where they get so offended. The prophecy isn't even effing mentioned in the original trilogy.
The again, right. You know, the one who would bring balance to the Force.
None of that mattered. Palpatine didn't even have a name. He was just the Emperor in the original trilogy.
It all feels very, oh, hey, this is going to happen, so we need to fill out these, we got to fill out these blanks, and that's what they did. But as unimpressed with the prequels I was, I actively hated the sequels.
Many people did, yeah.
I liked Rogue One. I thought Rogue One was okay.
It's all right. It doesn't feel like Star Wars to me. That's my issue with it.
I think that's the problem that a lot of people have with it. But I think if you rearrange the way you think about it and realize that it's not really Star Wars.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, I've heard so many people say, no, you got to start on Rogue One and then watch the original trilogy. I'm like, why would you want somebody, like, if you've never seen Star Wars before, why would you want somebody to get attached to these characters that you're never going to see again? Also on a movie that doesn't feel anything like the rest of the movies. Like, that's my argument.
And it's kind of an interesting thing, though, if you think about it, because, every time we pick up a movie,
right,
or a TV show, everything that happened before the event that makes the movie be a thing is just people living their regular lives. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, like, when you think about Rogue One as the people who made the other movies possible,
right,
but they're not the people.
No, they're not the stars. Yeah,
they're just.
But again, like, I don't
catalyst of what happened.
I don't think anybody would want to start with that as my argument.
I think that you should start with the first one.
I agree. First one being A New Hope.
No.
You think you should start with the prequels?
I do.
Why?
Because that's the way the story, even though the story doesn't have like, canon linear movement. You do have to, like, I think, just from a timeline standpoint, like, even though they're not the same movie, they're the same story.
Sure, but all right. Well, but that's my issue. Where if people start with the prequels, then they are so indoctrinated into this prophecy mentality. They get spoiled at the end about Luke and Leia being not only siblings, but also the children of Darth Vader, which is the biggest reveals of movie history.
That's a really, really good point.
That's where I'm coming from, where it's like the original trilogies, like you said, is perfect. Like, all three of those movies are perfect in their own right, but it's like they are because they build off each other. But if it's like you already have things that are in reference and almost spoil things in those movies that are such major plot points, I don't think you get the same attachment. Also, I would argue Darth Vader comes across as one of the most terrifying dudes of all time in the original trilogy. And if you went in, and I think this was a point that I made on our Star Wars episode that I did with Marianne, if you went and watched the prequels and had no idea, if you were introducing somebody to Star Wars and you watched the entire original trilogy and then you said, now we're going to watch the prequels, it's stuff that happened before all of this, and you didn't tell them the plot of any of these movies, you didn't tell them any sort of anything, you didn't give them any marketing, nothing, you didn't show them a trailer, you watch Phantom Menace, and then this little kid shows up and he says, I'm Anakin Skywalker. Do you know how many people's minds would have been blown? Because it's like, oh, this 9-year-old kid grows up to be the most terrifying dictator in the galaxy. I'm interested and I want to watch more.
I mean, honestly, it's not like, you know, the world's greatest dictators were, you know, 12-year-old monsters.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. But you get more interested in the growth of how did this little guy who is so aspires to be a Jedi and sees the magic and the wonder of the universe and wants to just save all of the people that are enslaved on his planet. How does he become Darth Vader? If you don't know who Darth Vader is, you don't get that same interest, I think.
You know what? I will give you all the credit in the world because you have completely swayed me on this. Because
it's the diehard argument.
Honestly, you know, because of how great those reveals were.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, there's something to be said for in a TV show when you know something that the main character doesn't know and then they find out. But when you didn't know that Darth Vader was Luke's father and you find out, dude, that was a legitimate jaw-dropping moment. I would love to see what people, like, a reaction of people in the theaters.
Oh, you know I would too. I would love that.
When it originally happened.
And the fact that even like George Lucas had to put in that scene in Return of the Jedi because he has said multiple times, and I agree with this, Star Wars is made for children. Like it is a series loved by all, but at the end of the day, it is teaching plot points and lessons that are supposed to reach out to children. And when children watched Empire Strikes Back and they went, Darth Vader's bad, so he's lying. So they literally had to put in a scene in Return of the Jedi where Yoda is telling Luke, yeah, he's your father. But Yoda can't lie, he's the good guy. So that's where I'm like, that impact alone means so much more to me than trying to introduce somebody to a movie that features Jar Jar Binks and pod racing. You know what I mean?
Hey, I'll tell you what. I'll watch 3 Jar Jar Binks before I watch that casino scene again.
Oh, I love The Last Jedi, but that entire plot point could be...
What a waste of time!
Yeah. And DJ. Oh, I didn't like DJ either. That was Del Toro? Is that Del Toro? Who's in that?
Benicio del Toro?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, completely useless. Captain Phasma's death, completely waste.
They wanted her to be another Boba Fett. And it only took 30 plus years for Boba Fett to finally become cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I agree with what Abrams says because it's so obvious where it's like, look, you're working with Disney. Just plan out your 3 movies. Plan them out. Like they told Daisy Ridley when they were hiring her. They're like, yeah, we don't know who Rey's lineage is yet. And they're like, she was like, yeah, at one point they were saying it could be Skywalker. At another point they said it could be Kenobi. Rian Johnson kind of ended on the nobody thing, and then they pulled that back because people weren't happy with it. And I'm just like,
yeah, that was really terrible.
Yeah, it's funny too. Good friend Marianne brought her up a couple times. She was like, you will never make Star Wars fans happy. They ended with her being a Skywalker so it could stay with the lineage, but it also like for blood relation, she was Palpatine, so it's still like this soap opera in space about a family dynamic drama, which is great. However, even if these people who are like, I like the Rey nobody thing better, you could have stuck it to nobody, and then, you know, fans like you, Tank, would have been like, but then it has nothing to do with the families, and
I mean, but then it's just like it's pointless. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, all right, so just this nobody has all this power. You're telling me, you know what I mean? Like it's just
Force works in mysterious ways. That's their plot point behind it, while also doing this. Anybody could be powerful, but I think then they tried to tease that with Finn. Finn's a nobody who suddenly had Force powers at the end, even though they didn't tell us in the movie. They had to tease it.
See, that's another thing that, to your point, here's what you do. Here's the order you make people watch it in.
Oh, no.
You have them watch the original 3.
Right.
And then you don't tell them about the other 6. Huh?
I think that's the same hot take you did at the beginning of the show.
I'm just saying, like, because, you know, metachlorines, whatever those things
Metachlorians.
that nonsense. There's like so much stuff that doesn't exist in the original universe that exists in the new universes, and just all that.
Hey, you know what? I'm at least happy that the sequels kept it to like a religion and not a science, because that's what the prequels did. They said, "Oh no, the Force is actually a bunch of like shit living in your bloodstream."
Right.
I hated that garbage.
But also in the original 3, the Force was something you had to work really hard to attain.
Well, that's not true. That's not true.
It's absolutely true.
That is absolutely Yoda's whole point. Is like, if you don't believe it, then it won't work for you. Like
right.
he easily lifts the X-wing, and his whole argument about like he's too old is because he's already not believed it's something he can do, and that's why it takes so long for Luke just to even lift a rock. But it's like if you believe in it, then that makes it easier to obtain the Force. And that's what they're trying to teach you in the movie.
Why is somebody who doesn't even know it exists believing it so vehemently?
That's what they try to do with the dyad thing, is that she has innate Force abilities because of her connection with Ben. Even in a comic, this is all additional shit, by the way, because of course Star Wars explains more stuff outside of the movies than it does in the movies, and that has been said for all of the movies. Did you know Luke Skywalker had a yellow lightsaber, and that's where he learned his lightsaber skills, was because he had a yellow lightsaber in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi? I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's true now. This is the stuff that I'm talking about, that they add all of this canon material that it's like, I feel like you're taking away more than you're adding at some points. But anyways, they basically said Rey had this connection with Ben Solo basically since she was a child, and that essentially caused this innate Force ability in her, which also makes it so easy for her to use the Force, because she knows. She even has a line where she's like, I've always known that it's there, I've been afraid of it, and now that it's awake, I don't know what to do. And that's her whole plot in Last Jedi, which makes sense, but also they explain, it's always been there because Ben's always had that connection with her. It's Force does crazy shit. That's exactly what they're trying to say.
The Force be tripping.
The Force be tripping.
I couldn't roll my eyes hard enough at what you were just saying about all this nonsense.
All of it was true. Everything that I said was true in Star Wars canon.
Can I just tell you, like, as a kid,
right,
when they had the blue lightsaber, the light blue that just looked like it looked like your typical fluorescent bulb that you would see. And then when he came back in Jedi with the green one, the green was sexy. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? The green was.
People have asked me, well, you know what? Let's end on a good note. What is your favorite lightsaber color? Any color that you could have. Any color that you could have. Any color, by the way. Like, if you wanted a color for a lightsaber, what would you want?
I want like a royal blue, because like royal blue is my favorite color. Yeah,
ooh, yeah, that'd be nice.
I don't think I've ever seen one either.
Like a royal blue lightsaber?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think they exist.
I know that
not in canon, but I just mean like. Yeah. There you go. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see what a royal blue color would look like. Yeah, I think you could actually get a lightsaber like that in the Fallen Order game, where you're Cal Kestis.
Oh.
Yeah, I think you can have a darker blue lightsaber like that.
Is that on Game Pass?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Let's check that out.
You have to check it out. And for me, I would do green. When I was growing up and I watched the original trilogy, I freaked when I saw Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. And then when I watched the prequels, Qui-Gon Jinn is still one of my favorite Jedi. And when I saw that he had a green lightsaber, I was like, I want a green lightsaber like him and Luke.
Well, what's cool is like all the different colors. Like the red one, I feel like the red one's pretty unmesswithable.
What do you mean? So, like, it's just so like, powerful looking?
It's so badass looking.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's just the bad guys. Like,
you went green for me. Oh, never mind. Now it's like yellow. What is that?
We're back to green.
All right. Well, but no, I agree. That's what makes it so menacing, and red just works that way. Anyways, we've been talking a lot today. Do you have, we're an hour and 15 minutes in. Do you have a quick recommendation for the group?
Oh my God.
I caught you so off guard.
You caught me off guard. Yeah.
2012.
So, honestly, yes, it's a good movie.
I'll watch it again. I'll give it another
limo
shot.
chase. That limo chase was awesome.
I agree that it's a good shot. I'll give 2012 a shot. You've already said enough about it to make people go and watch it.
Watch it from that perspective of a guy trying to save his family, not a guy trying to save the world.
Sure.
Or any of that. Just.
I like in Geostorm and.
Yeah, that was. I get it. Those were bad. The core was really bad.
Oh man, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, it's terrible.
My recommendation is a TV show that I started watching. I'm still in a very big DC mood. I've been reading a lot of comics, and I actually was telling you about this the other day when you and me, I think we went out to lunch, and I was telling you that I watched Superman and Lois, which is surprisingly a CW show, which I do not like CW and most everything that they do. But boy, I really enjoyed the first 5 episodes because that was all that was available at the time. Superman and Lois, and it's basically the plot of Clark Kent and Lois Lane after having 2 children. They move to the children are like teenage boys, and they move to Smallville to take over the Kent farm, and it's a way for them to become a family again. And there's this great family dynamic where at the same time he is being Superman, and he's going around the world and saving it. And as bad as CW's CGI is for a lot of situations, surprisingly not that bad for this show. I was expecting it to be a lot worse. And they explore all levels of Superman. A lot of them are afraid to do the frost breath or laser eyes. He does all of it, which is really great and really fun. He's also a very good Superman, in my opinion, the actor who they got playing him. But yeah, I'd absolutely recommend that if you like anything Superman. I think it's a great celebration of the character, and the fact that his sons are named Jonathan and Jordan in reference to Jonathan, his father, his human father, and then Jor-El, his father on Krypton. I think that's just already enough for me to be like, this is gonna be fun. I'm interested to see how they're gonna portray this. But
I wasn't interested, but you made me interested.
Check it out. As much as I hate the fact that the episodes are an hour long because it's CW, the first one surprisingly flew by for me, especially just enjoying.
Like a bird?
Yeah, like a plane. Faster than a speeding bullet, actually. It was just a big enjoyment for me to watch it, and I love Superman, so there could be biased there, but yeah, give it a check. But that should do it for today's podcast. Tank, how are you feeling?
Feeling great, buddy. Feeling good. Yeah. Nice work.
It was a long one today. Let's get out of here.
It was a long one. You convinced me of a lot of stuff, so.
That's great. Well, all right. Once again, I am your host, Stephen Austin.
I'm your co-host, Tank, and despite my appearance, I am not a redneck.
And we'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.